Coming up next on All About Android, it's me, Jason Howell, Ron Richards, and Florence Ion. And we've got Flo's Pixel 7 review. That's the 7 and the 7 Pro. I mean, I have the 7 Pro here, but I've only had it for like a few hours, so I couldn't give it a review. But Flo does. Lucky for you. Flo also reviews the Pixel Watch, so you get a full review about this. You know, me too. I've got it, but haven't had it long enough to give a review. Thankfully, we have Flo for that. Also, Motorola's Rollable device, its prototype, the Razer Edge, and whether you really need it, the Passkey support that's coming to Chrome, Signal is losing SMS support, Pixel 7 tips by J.R. Rayfield of Android Intelligence, your feedback, and a whole lot more. Doesn't it sound like it? Coming up next on All About Android.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is All About Android, episode 600, recorded Tuesday, October 18th, 2022, Garden of Pixels. This episode of All About Android is brought to you by Policy Genius. By making it easy to compare your options from top companies, Policy Genius can help you find the financial safety net your loved ones deserve. Head to policygenius.com/AAA to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. And by SecureWorks. Are you ready for inevitable cyber threats? SecureWorks detects evolving adversaries and defends against them with a combination of security analytics and threat intelligence directly from their counter threat unit. Visit secureworks.com/twit to get a free trial of Taegis Extended Detection and Response, also referenced as XDR. Hello, welcome to All About Android, your week's source for latest news, hardware, and apps for the Android faithful. That's you and me, Jason Howell.
And I am Ron Richards.
And I'm Florence Ion. And I am faithful. I am faithful.
Are you though, Flo? Because I know you've been hanging around with the Apple kids as well as the Pixel kids. And I just got to know, where are your loyalties? Where do they lie?
Yeah, I gotta tell you, with this Pixel, it's swaying me. It's swaying me.
Oh, okay.
So much to talk
I don't know.
about.
That doesn't sound good.
I know it really doesn't. I'm like, wait a minute, swaying you from or toward, or I don't even know.
Hang on, I was all excited to be glad that you were back, Jason, because the last 2 weeks have you've been missed. And of course, Flo, we've been dying to get the eyewitness experience to the Pixel event. So we've been waiting with bated breath to hear what you think. So I just wanted to be positive and just hug my two favorite Jason and Flo's as we get to do the show together this week. So, yeah. Yeah. Jason,
good to be back. Good to have you back, Flo, and especially on this episode. I will say for, every week of the year, like they're all different. They all carry different types of weight as far as Android news is concerned. Somehow I ended up out the two possibly most important, at least to the Pixel lineup and to Google's hardware efforts, the two most important weeks, the announcement and then the follow-up kind of like preview week, /review week. So I feel really behind when it comes to the hardware. So I'm looking forward to this to kind of catch up.
Man, the first time in 11 years, I think it's okay. Your batting average is pretty good, Jason. So
thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
So Flo, before we get into the actual hardware and stuff, what was the event like? What was it like to be there?
Well, I'm going to try and focus on you guys because my child is yelling in the background. I just want to bring it up in case the microphone happens to pick it up. Well, I will tell you, I had no screaming children while I was dealing with all this Pixel stuff because I was in New York and I was fully entrenched with it. I feel like I went to Pixel boot camp. So
wow.
All I know is this Pixel now. This is all I've been thinking about for the last 3 weeks. And I'm ready to just get it all off my chest because I bought the part that I wanted from this Pixel release, and now I'm ready to move on to the next thing.
You got to move on to the next thing. I mean, this is just this is the time of year where so much is happening in the world of hardware, not just Android hardware, but smartphone hardware. I mean, they're all cramming in their release. Apple held like a second impromptu event today, 1 week or a couple of weeks later. I mean, it's every single week it feels like there's some big major hardware announcement. So I hear you. I hear you completely.
Yeah.
Let's help you get there, Flo. Let's help you move on from the Pixel, which doesn't give me much hope for your review if you really want to move on for the Pixel, but that's okay. It's time to jump in. I know it says news. I don't care what bumper you play. Just play a bumper. Doesn't matter to me. What bumper you got? All right, that's the one. That's the winner. Flo's Hardware Shack.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Had to move around a little bit over here. Goodness gracious. Well, what should we start with? We should start with the phones.
Yeah, let's do the phone.
Okay,
or you've got both of them? Do you have both of them?
Oh, I have 3 of them right now. 2 that are Google's and 1 that is mine. Guess which one I bought?
The smaller. You bought the 7, not the 7 Pro.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Did you read my Twitter?
Guess. No, I
probably. Spoiler.
That was a total guess. But I mean, I probably would have gone with the 7 and not the 7 Pro if it didn't have like the camera stuff, which is the same thing that kept me from going with the 6 versus the 6 Pro last year, is having that extra camera. So.
Yeah. So I got to tell you, like, the macro capabilities, the telephoto lens that they added onto the Pixel 7 Pro is fantastic. It is clear when you zoom in, but even with like the super res zoom, which is this new feature that software helped feature that they introduced to the 7 and the 7 Pro. On the 7 Pro, the super res zoom actually engages the high optical zoom. So the telephoto that you have, I could just show you. The telephoto is built in right here. And this module is the telephoto right here. And then this over here is the regular camera system, the primary camera system that you would also see in the 7. Let me get my 7. This is the 7. This is the back. This is how you tell the difference between them. So I was going to get my phone, but then my mechanic called while we're in the middle of this show. There's a lot going on today, folks. I didn't feel the need to buy the Pro this time around and spend the extra $300. You do get the bump up to 12 gigs of RAM, and then you get a bigger 5,000 milliamp battery. And I'm actually still running through the battery test on these phones because Google says you get 24 hours with them. And I managed 22 hours with the iPhone. But the problem is that I've been doing all this testing. I haven't had time to like leave the phones to do the tests that they need to do. So that's kind of like the last thing I need to do this week to get a real assessment. But so far things are pretty good on the battery end. So
in general, is it seeming like is it pretty standard that companies overinflate their battery performance? Like if they're saying it's 24 and then you get 22, is that the process that you're using, or is that them not being honest? You know what I mean?
It's the process that I'm using. I hope I'm remembering the iPhone one right. It could have been not 22. Regardless, it was almost as long as Apple promised, and it was really impressive. But I'm talking about just like internal Gizmodo benchmark numbers that I've done. And we just kind of do this to get a lay of the land of how things sort of perform relative to each other. Not so much. But at the same time, like OnePlus phones, for instance, have had, we last this long, or Xiaomi phones. And I found that's like not the case because of whatever reason. So a lot of factors play into that. But that's also why I bought the 7, because I didn't want to deal with like 120 hertz display. I didn't need that slightly bigger size, and I didn't need the telephoto.
Okay.
That's perfectly fine.
See, I feel like the telephoto, as far as like a camera feature, for me is like indispensable. I use it all the time. And I realize when I don't have it, when I go on a camera to zoom in on something and then I look at it later and it's got all those crunchy digital artifacts because it was not an optical telephoto. So that just gets me every time. That's like in my mind of like features that a company can include in their premium to entice you to get the premium instead. Like it's super effective for me. But I mean, obviously everybody has different things they're looking for.
Yeah, but also that's a really good point, because when I was writing my review, I was thinking like, okay, I used to go to concerts more often, like pre-pandemic, but now I'm a parent and I'm at this stage of parenting where it's like not as often. So I can go without a macro. Like I can go without getting up close, because the pictures that I'm taking right now at this point of my life is mostly so I don't forget things. You know, so I can look back on my life. You know, it's not, I'm not as like, and the other stuff that I use the camera for, like I do make TikToks. The Pixel 7 is perfect for that. It's, you know, you don't really need a super high resolution lens. No. People do it with like the iPhone SE and cheaper phones. So it's just good enough, and I'm still going to get all these great photos of Mona. But the other thing is that I have the privilege of being able to borrow this phone from Google. So I didn't want to spend the extra $300 just for that capability. That's just a lot of money. It's a lot of extra money.
That's kind of that's the perfect litmus test, right, for reviews. Yeah. Is that, I mean, and the reality is a lot of us get review hardware from Google or whatever company, right? Like it's just the way the industry works. This time around, I didn't get review hardware from Google. But I also didn't spend my own money on this phone, right? It came out of the TWiT credit card, right? It's kind of part of the business expense. So I guess at the end of the day, if you are a tech reviewer and you actually are in a position where you need to buy your phone, what is that phone? That says a lot that you would save the $300, go for the 7, and that is absolutely perfect for you.
What's really funny about that, Jason, is because I was thinking about it earlier today, because I also have not gotten a review unit, and I'm still knocking on wood, holding on hope, because I do need to, because I do want to move on from my Pixel 6. I don't know if I've talked about on this. We've talked about on the show how I've cracked the glass in the back, but also the cameras. But one of the camera lenses are busted. Remember, I can only take pictures in telephoto, and that's what is the 0.7 lens, the wide angle lens.
That must be. So I think that's the wide angle.
Yeah. So actually, Flo, I was at a concert a week or two ago, and I couldn't zoom because it pops out of focus physically when I try to use the zoom lens. And so I'm like, crap. I do need a new phone. And I was actually thinking, I'm like, oh, well, I went with the Pixel 6 last time. Maybe I'll go with the 7 Pro this time around, like just to mix things up and to get the better camera and all stuff like that. But Flo, you're swaying me and making me think I can still stick with the 7 and save the money if I do have to purchase it myself.
Yeah, I mean, Ron, we're in the same situation, right? You want to have the best camera on you for the kids because...
Yep, exactly. Because
you just look at their pictures every single night before going to bed. How much they've grown.
It's true.
And I was living with the OnePlus 9 as sort of this self-experiment that I put myself through to live with this kind of lower tier device, let's just say it that way, from another brand to see how that would age. And it didn't age very well. The camera just wasn't cutting it for me in these last couple of months, to the point that I was just carrying whatever review phone I had on me that was better so that I could take pictures of Mona that I didn't hate. I was like, you know what? The Pixel 7 is perfect for that. That's why people are picking the Pixel 6a, like the A series, because you're still getting the AI capabilities of that camera. So I feel like that's a good time for us to segue, though, to talking about the night sight a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Talk about it. Like I said, I literally got mine today. I have not had the chance to do anything with it other than set it up and log into my apps and everything like that. So I haven't even taken a picture on it yet. I'm super curious to hear about night sight. Yeah, tell us about it.
I mean, it's still the same great night sight. I just want to say that the Pixel 7 still takes the best night photos of any phone that I've tested this year. So,
well, that's solid.
There you have it.
Okay, well, there we go. That was easy.
That's it.
Okay. You got some examples on the screen.
Yeah. I had a perfectly timed. It was perfect timing for this Pixel review because I got to test it in both New York City and San Francisco. So, because I went to the opera in New York City, so I got to like do my little night romp around the Lincoln Center and over there and just kind of like use the camera. And I was taking all these wonderful photos of the city at night. And then I came home and I got to romp around North Beach, and I was taking these gorgeous photos of North Beach in the fog and just like catching the way the light sort of bounces off the fog. And I'm just still so impressed that the Pixel does this, because that's the kind of stuff that's what you post to social media. You're just like, look at me. I went for a romp. I had childcare. Look.
It's not my living room again and again.
Yes,
and again.
Exactly. Yeah. And a mess of toys. So, again, this is like the best Android phone. This is one of the best Android phones that you can buy, but here's where it kind of like becomes a caveat for me, which is, have you guys noticed that there's a lot of very Pixel specific features? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's been increasing year after year.
Premise,
it kind of seems like,
right?
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Google adds its value. Why? Why is that curious to you?
Because I don't know if you guys saw the article that Ars Technica Ron Amadio had summarized there was a report that came out in the Information today about how Google is really focusing its efforts on hardware.
Yeah.
And tweaking the assistant so that it's working the best on its hardware. And it just really aligns with what we've been seeing with the Pixel, because when I initially went to go look at the Pixel, I actually went down to Redwood City before I went to New York City. And I got to chat with Google in sort of like a, one-on-one meeting when I was looking at the hardware. And I noticed a lot of the features that they were walking me through were, this is coming to the Pixel only. This is Pixel 7 first, coming to other Pixels later. And so I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, what about Samsung devices? What about OnePlus devices? What about all these other manufacturers that are still using Android? And it seems like Google is building its own garden of pixels.
Oh, a garden of pixels.
Ooh, I like that. There's an episode title.
Yeah, no kidding. Somebody write that down.
So, Flo, did you just come up with that on the spot, or did you come up with that previously? And did you prepare? Like, is that a prepared bit, or?
I've been thinking about it, and then I may have written it today in my Pixel Watch review.
All right, I'm deleting it from our episode title.
I came up with no. I didn't say Garden of Pixels. I just
okay. We just want to be clear here. Do we have
the scoop on the Garden of Pixels?
The lock on the Garden of Pixels.
Is this an exclusive, Flo? Can we have that as an exclusive?
You can have it as an exclusive. Yeah.
So I will admit, Flo, yes, the report of which you spoke was to be the first story on the next after the break. But we're going to just talk about it now.
I'm sorry. I totally looked at the doc and everything, and then I just ended up
That's okay.
Cadence.
Don't worry about it, because it totally fits in here. And I guess I'm kind of curious about this too, because Google, as you were saying, kind of moving a little bit further away from this idea that like, we're not competing really with the partners that use Android. We aren't here to make their lives difficult with our hardware efforts. We're just doing something else. And I think for a while they've been it's been possible for them to hide behind the fact that Pixel numbers have just been pretty low compared to a lot of other manufacturers, cough, Samsung especially. But now this report is really saying like, actually Google is getting a little more serious about doubling down and maybe worrying a little less about the impact that what they do with their hardware division has on their competitors. And like you said, keeping some of these features for their own devices, and I don't know, making it a little less cozy for everyone else. But there was another thing that report said that I thought was really interesting, and I know you probably have an opinion on this, Flo, because you have been a fan of, or at least you've talked a lot about Android Auto. The report shared that Google is considering moving staff away from Android Automotive because they see that it's making kind of a small impact on their bottom line. They make around $1 billion annually, which doesn't sound like, nothing. But I'm curious what something like that would mean for the future of Android in the car. And I know that's off topic from the phone, but what do you think about that? That just smacks of Google doing what they often do, which is they take a good thing and they, for some reason, talk themselves out of it. What do you think?
That is a really hard one, because part of the reason that I didn't have the new Android Auto experience on the phone is because I didn't have a Pixel, or I didn't have a device that was updated with the latest situation, because it works on the Samsung devices as well. And so that was like
OnePlus devices.
Yeah, it just didn't work on the OnePlus 9 for whatever reason. And I looked in the forums, and this is like a common issue with OnePlus devices. It's just that something with the OS, it doesn't vibe with what used to be called assistant driving mode and now is called Google Maps driving mode. So it's been, I don't think it's going away. I
mean, it's been cratered. From my understanding is most of those other functions that Android Auto had, aside from, music controls and maps, are kind of gone now. It's kind of like, oh yeah, well, whatever.
Well, I mean, there is still like an interface that you can access in driving mode, and that's what I'm going to be using. That was also part of the reason I was like, I need to get a Pixel, because I need to get a navigation back in my car.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's like,
that hot button topic, by the way. Yeah, we were channeling you, Flo, last week when Huyn was complaining about the changes to driving mode. So
yeah. So. But I don't think it's going to go away, because Apple has CarPlay. Apple's going to be doing their car stuff. I think they're just going to scale back on coming up with this Android Automotive, like this embedded system that would be like Android. But I don't think like the car mode is going to go away, because that would kill people.
Not. I mean, that would be...
I mean, not to be severe,
but that's the thing. Like, I hear that and I go, yeah, there's no way they would do that. But I'm kind of at this point to where, like, anything's possible. Like, even the impossible seems possible at this point. It's like I have my amount of... my faith bucket is below half at this point.
I mean, Stadia did get tanked, which is when the Stadia thing happened, I kind of was like... I had a discussion with myself and with myself, and I was just thinking, selves, this is why people complain that Google kills too many things. And I finally started to get why you all complain. It took me like 10 years, but I'm now understand it a little more.
Yeah. Google Graveyard gets yet another. Okay, well, let's take a break, because you do have the Pixel Watch as well. I happen to be wearing it, but I only set it up an hour ago, so I'm not going to offer any opinion other than my snap judgments. Let's put it that way.
I am looking forward to hearing what Flo thinks of it, because I did pull the trigger and purchase it during the broadcast, during the presentation, and so I'm really looking forward to Flo telling me that I didn't get too impulsive and He should have held off. So I'm really looking forward to hearing Flo's positive review of the Pixel Watch to tell me that it was everything that I hope it's going to be. So we'll get to that Pixel review next. But first, we want to thank our first sponsor of the evening, because this episode of All About Android is brought to you by Policy Genius. And we all hope we never need life insurance, dear Lord. But mortgage payments, childcare, and other expenses don't disappear after you're gone. Life insurance through your workplace may not offer enough protection for your family's needs, and it won't follow you if you leave your job. Life insurance typically gets more expensive as we age, so now's the time to buy. Policy Genius will give you a smarter way to find and buy the right coverage for you and your family. And let me tell you, I never worried about life insurance. I've had it at jobs. I was like, yeah, life insurance, that's great, blah, blah, blah. And then I got married, I had kids, I bought a house, and it was like, oh my God, I need life insurance. And you realize that you want to make sure that you set your family up for after you're gone, because it just makes a huge difference. And Policy Genius was built to modernize the life insurance industry. Their technology makes it easy to compare life insurance quotes from top companies like AIG and Prudential in just a few clicks to find your lowest price. With Policy Genius, you can find life insurance policies that start at just $17 per month for $500,000 of coverage. And Policy Genius has licensed agents who can help you find options that offer coverage in as little as a week and avoid unnecessary medical exams. The licensed agents at Policy Genius work for you, not the insurance companies. They're not incentivized to recommend one insurer over another, so you can trust their guidance. There are no added fees, and your personal info is always private. It's no wonder they have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google and Trustpilot. And while you're there, Policy Genius offers quotes from home, auto, pet, renters, and more. All your insurance needs at Policy Genius. Your loved ones deserve a financial safety net. You deserve a smarter way to find and buy it. Head to policygenius.com/AAA or click the link in the description on our show page to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. That's policygenius.com/AAA. Thanks, Policy Genius, for helping us set our families up when they need it. So thanks. And with that, let's get into hardware.
The second half, the second chapter of hardware. All right. So, what's on your wrist? What's going on here?
Well, if you look at it from this side, it's a Pixel Watch with a nice little, what is this? Lemoncello? I keep calling it limoncello. Lemongrass band. And if you look at it from this side, then you will see the stock gray band.
See, I like the multicolor thing. I think that looks good.
And then, I don't know if you can see this, but let's see. Turn on. Let's do this. I got a Pachaco watch face that I made. There we go. You can kind of see it.
Can sort of see that, yeah.
Yes.
So I only just, as I said, I unboxed this an hour and a half ago, maybe. And so all I was able to do was kind of get it, past the intro setup thing. And I think the two things that struck me are, this thing is really like thin. Like, I got to say that the profile on this is really flat.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way. I don't know how anybody else, but it is also kind of small. Like the watch face is a little small for my liking. Mm-hmm. But the rounded glass scares me.
Why?
It just looks so exposed. Like, there is no protection whatsoever on that sucker. Did you see what
happened to the Verge's review unit?
No, what happened?
It cracked.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah. Victoria Song did the review, and I believe she wrote about it in there about like what happened. But yeah, they cracked it, and they had to get a new unit. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah, the durability factor is not so high on the Pixel Watch. Okay, so let's talk about it. The best thing about the Pixel Watch is how it looks.
Yeah,
I am still writing my review. So all I did last week is I wrote like a little post about my initial thoughts. And then I kind of spent the weekend getting to know it because I have been really overwhelmed by the Fitbit of it all. I haven't used Fitbit in 5 years. And the last time I used it, I wasn't even using it very seriously. And I didn't start seriously tracking my walks, my workouts, and things of the sort until I got my Galaxy Active Watch in 2019. And that is on the Samsung Health ecosystem. So the idea of changing ecosystems really put me off to the point that I was kind of putting off reviewing this watch because I didn't want to interrupt my routine. So that's
fair enough.
One thing to think about. If you're not already in the Fitbit family, that's something to think about. Also, what's really weird is that you have access to the Fitbit. So you use the Fitbit app and the Wear OS app on your smartphone to sync with the watch. But the Fitbit app sees the Pixel Watch as a Fitbit smartwatch and then offers for you to install apps from the Fitbit App Store.
Ooh.
So
that's confusing.
Like, what?
So here's a question. Here's a question for you. Do I have to use the Fitbit app at all?
Yes.
You do?
You do. You have to use the Fitbit app if you want to get all the tracking. Google Fit is actually not on the Pixel Watch.
What?
Another shout. I'm going to give the Verge another shout out for writing about that too. They also wrote about that. They said that the Pixel Watch doesn't have Google Fit. So, yeah.
Wow. And so as someone who's invested in Google Fit all these years, I'm feeling like a moron. So like, are we going to see the end of Google Fit soon, you think?
Actually, I'm sorry. I take that back. It's missing from the Fossil Watch, not the Pixel Watch. I do apologize to everybody. I did not mean to mess us up. I did read a lot of headlines, though, the last couple of days, so you can imagine why I made that mistake, and I apologize. But I haven't set up Google Fit on the Pixel Watch because I didn't need to. It kind of just it started me down the Fitbit track. So it very much is suggesting that you use Fitbit as the sole fitness ecosystem here.
I mean, it's part of the whole setup process, right? It pops up the app and says, here's where you can download it. What, you want to one-click download the Fitbit app? Yeah.
Correct.
So I have it running.
But remember that there's a new Health Connect API that Google added, and that's supposed to help the different fitness apps talk to each other a little more easily and sort of share data. And what I noticed, and I kind of liked this, one of the downsides of my testing these different ecosystems is that not everything is syncing everywhere. But I noticed that as long as my Samsung results are syncing to Google Fit, that Google Fit will sync it to Fitbit as long as you have the Health Connect set up.
Okay.
Does that make sense what I said?
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Sort of.
So I'm just saying I've been testing Fitbit by not even wearing the Pixel Watch. I can wear my Galaxy Watch 4 out because that's actually still my smartwatch. So it's confusing, and that's kind of why I'm dragging my feet a little bit on the review, is because it's all this ecosystem stuff that I'm just this is really confusing, and I don't like that I have had to change my routine. But otherwise, the watch is really, the hardware is wonderful. It's beautiful. Maybe not the most durable, so something to think about. The crown is just as fluid and as smooth as the one on the Apple Watch Series 8, which I've also been testing out the last couple of weeks. The touch mechanism and just interacting with it. It's all a solidly great piece of hardware, but it is also missing some sensors that the Galaxy Watch 5 and the Apple Watch Series 8 currently have. And the most important one right now is the body temperature sensor. So
what can you do with the body temperature sensor that you cannot do with the Pixel Watch as a result?
So right now the body temperature sensor is dormant in the Galaxy Watch 5, but on the Apple Watch, it kind of helps you with fertility tracking. So to kind of
oh, thank God. That's what I've been looking for. Right. So that's really, the one thing. Sorry.
I mean, not all. It's fertility is just a body. It's a function of the body that some people need to track, but I also imagine that would really help people who are tracking maybe COVID symptoms or things of the sort. And the other thing to note, by the way, is is it the blood oxygen monitor, the SpO2 monitor. That's how I'm looking at it in my head, is currently dormant as well on the Pixel Watch. So you can't use it currently. So it's all just, if you want to do period tracking, you can do that with Fitbit manually. But the other thing about Fitbit that I really don't like is there's a really heavy emphasis on weight and tracking weight. And I just don't like that. I don't care. I just want to track my sleep and my steps. I'm not doing this.
Does it require you to do that?
I mean, I use Google Fit to track my miles run and to track my weight. Straight up, I have no qualms against it. I'm not using it aggressively, but I do use it to, I have a Bluetooth scale that I step on it automatically syncs and writes it. That way I can see the fluctuations. And I've identified patterns when I'm at home and drinking lots of water and I'm keeping weight off versus when I travel and eat like crap and then I gain, little things like that. But I think everyone has. And meanwhile, I'm not tracking my fertility. Everybody has, the different areas of health tracking that they want to provide, that they want to keep track of. So I understand why they offer it. And that's why I was asking if you need to use the Fitbit thing, because I'm not really that I don't care about my sleep tracking. I don't care about my heart rate. I don't care about any of that sort of stuff. I mainly want to use it to track my running and my distance and like that sort of stuff. And so like, I don't want to go super hardcore into it. I just want something that does it passively, so I don't need to worry about it.
Well, the good news is that you can remove the weight goal on here. But the weird news is that it says I have 95 pounds to lose.
Oh, well, that's just wrong.
Right.
You just ignore that. Just ignore that.
No, it's literally wrong. Like there is no possible way that I could lose that and be a human being. It would just be a limb.
That is absolutely wrong. I wonder how it's coming up with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really strange where it's getting some of the things. So as you can see, me and Fitbit aren't vibing. We're not vibing, and that's what's actually making it really hard for me to like this watch. Also, the proprietary clasping mechanism. Big bummer if you're like me and you buy a bunch of cheap stuff off Amazon.
Absolutely. Anything proprietary. Yeah. Like how long have we had watch strap, very like commonly used, widely accepted watch strap. Interchangeable watch straps. I mean, I just feel like that's at this point, if you're doing a watch and you're not doing that, you better have a really good reason why you don't do that.
Yeah.
And
Apple does it because
first watch.
It will still work for Apple to do something proprietary, and look at them now. There's a huge accessory market just for the Apple Watch, which
And so does Google want that? Is that what Google's going for here? Like, oh, maybe we can have what Apple has.
That's what I'm thinking about. But you know what? If it's not something that's widely adopted, like AliExpress is not going to print it out.
Yeah.
It's just not. So I'm not going to be able to find anything like cheap and fun. Like, like my current watch right now. Look at this fun like band that I got for it. See, it's all like clear and see-through, and you like push the watch inside, and
that's neat.
Yeah, that's
well, but we're just getting started though. I mean, I think that the connector system for the bands seems pretty, I don't know, innovative, but cool. Like, is it fun to change? Like you put two colors on your bands. That's a start, right?
Yeah, it's easier on the nails. I will say that than like pinching the teeny tiny little screws. Yeah. But there's a learning curve. You kind of have to like. It's a little weird because you have to slide it over the button as you're pushing it.
I mean, that's like I've done zero research on how to switch the band out, and it took me half a second to figure out that little.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean,
it's
can't
the
see
same as the Apple
There's
Watch.
Just a little button here. Yeah. You tap in. It's almost like a button that you're pressing to control something on the phone, but it happens to be the switch that lets the band come out. That's super easy.
So Flo, let me ask you this: I have not had a Android-based wearable since the G Watch.
The Watch.
The LG G Watch. So I've decided to return to wearables now with Wear OS and stuff like that. Did I make the right? I mean, I'll decide ultimately, but do you think I made the right call? Like, is this a good entry point with the first gen Pixel to pair with my Pixel phone? Like, will I have a pleasant experience, you think?
Yes.
Good.
Knowing what I know about you as well, I don't think that you would particularly like how the Samsung experience really requires you to like steer Samsung. And so like, for instance, I don't have home controls on my Samsung watch like you do on the Pixel because Samsung wants me to install SmartThings and wants me to set up Bixby for routines. And I don't want to use those things. And I don't have, my primary phone isn't a Samsung phone. So, and yet I also have like this annoying backup situation where I have to make sure that the watch is backed up through the Samsung Wear app in addition to my Google account. And so it's like, there's positives and negatives, but I think for what you want to do, Ron, I think you made the right choice. Just maybe think about getting like a bumper shell or something.
Well, you know how I feel about that.
What would a bumper look like on this watch?
It would look like Swatch. Remember the Swatch guards?
Yeah.
Am I dating myself?
I love this.
Dude, those are one of the most amazing things about this watch.
Those are pretty cool, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's pretty low effort too to get one of those, I'm sure. Honestly, like like I have said a few times, I have not played around with this really at all yet because I just got it. But I would have to say that, Ron, like knowing how much you love the Pixel lineup, I don't know how the Pixel Watch isn't the wearable for you. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of created with Google's DNA. So there's probably a lot of overlap there. If you, person watching or listening, love the Pixel lineup of phones, you're probably, as far as wearables are concerned, I don't know why you'd go with any other wearable unless you have a very specific reason for that.
And that's what I thought during the presentation. I'm watching this and I'm like, wow, like I already was considering, like even before the announcement, I was like looking at the fossils and stuff like that. I was like, oh, maybe I get another watch. I haven't had a watch in a while. And then watching that presentation, I was like, oh yeah, cool. Count me in. Like this is like, it totally wowed me. And I bought it during the presentation. So.
Yeah. Cool. So Flo, when do you expect your review to hit Gizmodo?
This week. I'm currently working on it right now. It's been hard to test the fitness stuff.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't sound like Google has made it easy to really.
Well, it's also me. Like I'm not a super kind of gal, you know. I'm not like checking an app to tell me if I need a rest day, because I'll just take it. If I want a rest day, I'll just take it. I don't care. So,
right. Yeah. Can I just say one other thing related to something we were talking about earlier about kind of tracking period and stuff like that? Yeah. I am of the opinion that smartwatches today need to consider that to be table stakes. I think that needs to be hands down 100% required on smartwatches, the way other random things are and have been table stakes for tracking fitness and whatever, because, well, just for the sheer fact that half of this world is women and they deserve to have something that is a part of their lives, you know, all the time. They deserve to have the ability to do that right out of the box. So that's me on my soapbox.
Correct.
When a smartwatch now comes out and doesn't do that, I think they're totally doing it wrong.
Yep. I agree. I just want to say not all women have periods. Just one thing to mention. So it's not just a women's health thing. It's a human health thing. But I also want to say that part of my frustration with the current crop of watches, both from Apple and the Android world, is that they're all very much made for, and I understand why, because the idea is to sell these units to people who like want to track things and people who are going to spend money and join the ecosystem. But I would love a watch that just like tells me my general well-being. How am I doing? Am I okay? Should I go to the doctor maybe? Like, has my blood pressure been low lately? All things that I think they are working on behind the scenes, but it's hard like not to feel left out of the marketing of these wearables.
Yeah, I wonder, like, what is the line that they're allowed, or they don't feel like if they cross this line, then they enter into total liability territory when it comes to, we think you're not okay, we think you need to see a doctor. I'm sure there are regulations that also are at play there as far as what Google can or can't do when it comes to, you know, the devices that you're wearing, giving you guidance in that regard. But I think at the end of the day, that's kind of like, it needs to get there.
I was just going to say, if Apple can do it and then figure out a way to like encrypt that data so you can take it, you know, so it complies with HIPAA regulations or whatever. Mm-hmm. That's what sells devices at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So
cool. Well, everybody check out Flo's upcoming review of the Pixel Watch. All you got to do is check out Gizmodo, of course. That's where she's writing all her fancy stuff. Yeah, check it out.
I'm going to the Discord right now to see what you all were writing while I was.
You go to the Discord and check what people are writing while Ron talks about this other hardware news.
Right on. So we talked about it last week with the slidable display. We've seen hints and bits of rollables and things like that emerging into the world to add to the foldables. We got an update recently now from Motorola, who's touting a rollable prototype design of their own. They showed it off at Lenovo Tech World, and like, here's where it really you ready to get your mind blown? Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
Motorola's prototype is a 5-inch phone that extends to 6.5 inches.
Whoa.
I mean, whoa, think about that, right? It basically becomes taller. So unrolled, it's about the size of an iPhone 13 mini, but rolled, it's the size of an iPhone 14 Pro Max. So
wow, okay.
When you think that, like, listen, my phone is all right, but guess what? It can get taller by 1.5 inches. There you go. There's got it. But all joking aside, it's promise. So, you press a button and it extends and it rolls out. And it just shows the promise of this rollable technology. And like, really what I want to see is, there we go. If you're watching the video, you can see the demo of it as it just becomes taller. It grows a little and the icons go up with it and everything. But for me, like, I'm excited to see this, not so much in the phone paradigm to make a small phone become bigger, but have a phone become a tablet and roll out to become a tablet. That's what gets me excited about this potential technology. But this is just a concept for now, just a prototype. It's not actually in market yet, but rollables are coming. Let me tell you. So get on board or get out of the way. So
maybe this is the foldable for people who consider themselves small phone people. Although we don't know how thick it is, but you know what? You know what I mean? Like, it starts off in that small form factor that people who really do pine after the smaller smartphones that we hardly ever see anymore. Like, maybe that smaller version becomes closer to that, and then you get the best of both worlds because you got your smaller phone.
It's got a weird little thing. Like, you can see it's like extending like over the back of over the top of the phone. See where they're holding it?
Yeah.
It's like some weird thing that's just going to snap off or something.
The extension point is up there. Yeah. Where it kind of rolls over.
I mean,
the
still
display
cool,
down at the bottom is kind of rounded on the bottom, I imagine.
Yeah.
So when it rolls out, it's not creased or anything. Yeah, these things are interesting. The rollable facet of this technology. When we start to actually see these in a couple of years, I don't actually know how long it's going to be, but I guarantee you we're going to see this at some point. Obviously, they're working hard for it. I think it's neat. I think it potentially takes care of the crease issue. Yeah, I like it.
You know what's funny? I actually miss the crease when I go to the Pixel 7 because I'm still using the Z Fold 4.
Yeah,
and I miss the crease.
What does the crease give you? What are you missing from it?
It's like a thing. It's like it's like when you have a mole that you just kind of like touch and you know that there's a mole. You know what I mean? It's like you have this part on your body and you're just kind of like, oh yeah, I have this on my body. And
it's like an imperfection. It's an imperfection of the phone. It's character.
It's just part of the experience. It's just part of the experience.
Well, then maybe someone needs to create an app that overlays over the top of all your other apps and creates an artificial indentation in the middle. There we go. For people like you, for the 5 people like you that are missing the fold, the crease when moving to a normal phone. And then finally, Razer launched a handheld device, a handheld portable gaming device running Android. It's called the Razer Edge. And what it is, it's a 6.8-inch tablet, as you can see in this. Is this a CNET article? No, sorry, it's the Verge article. 6.8-inch tablet, and it's got 144 hertz display. It's removable from the controller. The controller might look familiar to you because the controller itself is a Razer Kishi, but this is a new version of it, the Kishi V2 Pro. It actually has haptics. It has, yes, of course, a 3.5 millimeter jack for headphones. But like all of these other Android portables, handheld devices that we're seeing, this is really kind of focused on cloud gaming. So it's got xCloud, Xbox cloud gaming support. It's got NVIDIA GeForce Now support. And $399.99, so $400 for the Wi-Fi only version. They are working on a 5G ready version of this that's going to launch on Verizon sometime next year, but the Wi-Fi only version launches next January. So you got the little tablet that sits in there. You can pop the tablet out if you want. I'm assuming you could set the tablet, up kind of like a Nintendo Switch where you can have the controllers.
Guys, no. Just go buy the controller for $60, $70 and I put it on your phone. You do not need to buy this.
I kind of thought the same thing when I saw this. I was like, well, why? If it's just a Kishi and and it's just a removable, essentially a phone or a tablet, whatever you want to call it. Like, what's the difference? Why $400 for this?
This is just a way for Verizon to sell something and for Razer to do a little marketing effort. This is really what it feels like.
And to go after people who
I've
don't
been doing
know
this.
And to go after, this sounds worse than it is, but to go after people who don't know better or enough, like who are just like, oh, that seems like a good deal,
I'll buy this
right?
for my kid.
Right.
You'll let me add it on for $10 to my bill every month. I can just add my kid and get him a little tablet. Oh, that's great. Don't do it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, we just popped your balloon, Razer's Edge. Sorry about that. We just took a razor to your balloon.
I'm sorry, but
I thought the same thing. I was like, $400 seems like a lot for something like this. I had a Razer Kishi a couple of years ago that my phone fit into, and I feel like it was basically mostly this. I mean, I don't know. I
still
guess the
use
processor
the V1.
Thing's a little different.
But I still use the V1 Razer Kishi. I freaking love it. I use it for emulation. I was trying to use it for Stadia.
Yeah, we know how that turned out. Yeah, notably missing from this cloud gaming Android handheld is, of course, Stadia. Rest in peace.
Mm-hmm. But you can play everything else.
Yeah, but everything else. Wow, 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 wow. All right, let's take a break. There we go. Thank you. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to be we got some app stories, including one that I just added last minute because I realized you wrote it, Flo, and so
because you crazy, Jason, you crazy, just
crazy like
anything,
that. It's just like
anything
whatever.
can happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's what happens.
Whatever.
I'm back. But first, the sponsor of this episode is SecureWorks. SecureWorks is a leader in cybersecurity, building solutions for security experts by security experts. So SecureWorks offers superior threat detection and rapid incident response, all while making sure that customers are never locked into a single vendor. And it's October right now. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. That means now is the time to raise awareness about digital security and empower everyone to protect their data from cybercrime. SecureWorks has the perfect solution. Now's the time to get Taegis XDR. I'm going to tell you why. In 2022, cybercrime is going to cost the world $7 trillion. But by 2025, just 3 years later, that figure is going to balloon to $10.5 trillion. Trillion. 10.5, crazy. In 2021, ransomware totaled $20 billion in damages. Attacks occurred every 11 seconds. But by 2031, that's 10 years later, ransomware is projected to cost $265 billion per year and strike every 2 seconds. That's massive. Make sure your organization is not the next victim with SecureWorks Taegis XDR. SecureWorks Taegis provides superior detection. It identifies more than 470 billion security events per day, prioritizing the true positive alerts, eliminating alert noise, and then also allowing organizations to focus on the real threat. And in addition, Taegis actually offers unmatched response with automated response actions, and that's to eliminate threats before damage is even ever done. With SecureWorks Taegis Managed XDR, you can easily leverage SecureWorks experts to investigate and then, of course, respond to threats on your behalf so that you can cut dwell times, you can decrease your operational burden, and reduce your cost. And with 24/7 by 365 days coverage, whether you experience a Christmas Day security event or half your team is out sick, let's say, you can trust that SecureWorks is behind you. Now, many companies are facing a shortage of security talent. We're hearing about that all the time. SecureWorks acts as an extension of your security team on day one. That's going to help you alleviate cybersecurity talent gaps, and it allows you to customize the approach and the coverage level that you actually need. So what happens if you've already found an intruder in your system? Well, there's no need to worry. You want to write this number down, 1-800-BREACHED. That number is going to connect you with the SecureWorks Emergency Incident Response Team, and then they can provide you with immediate assistance 24/7 in responding to and remediating a possible cyber incident or data breach. That's 1-800-BREACHED. So at SecureWorks, you can learn more about the ways today's threat environment is evolving, the risks that it can present to your organization, including case studies, reports from their counter threat unit, and more. Visit secureworks.com/twit. You'll get a free trial of Taegis XDR when you do that. That's secureworks.com/twit. SecureWorks, defending every corner of cyberspace. And we thank SecureWorks for their support of All About Android. All right. It's time to dig into some apps. Let's do it.
Wow. The trance music is just continuing here, isn't it? It's just fantastic. So Google Play Services beta users with Chrome Canary can begin to test out Passkey support. And if you know what any of those words mean, you're one of the Android faithful. Passkey is actually what Apple, Google, and Microsoft all would like to replace passwords with. You enter a single passcode or fingerprint to unlock device access to save credentials, and they become securely backed up, synced to Google Password Manager. And now available, users can create those passkeys on an Android device, and devs can build passkey support. What do you guys think? I've heard a lot of rumblings about Passkey being the future of identity management, password management. Do you think it's the real deal, or?
I don't know if it's the real deal, but I'm open to trying. What I mean? Like, I'm kind of sick of passwords, and if this is an effort that all of the majors are going to get on board with and support the way it probably needs to be supported in order for it to actually work and actually be a less brutal way of managing our own security on an individual level on our devices, then I'm all for trying. And it really does look like that momentum is there. I would imagine Steve Gibson and other security professionals may have different things to say about its, kind of security implications, whether it's better or worse than what we have right now. But I'm open to trying it. Sure, why not?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I will just default to using it anyway because I already use Google for all my password management, which I have been scolded about. But quite frankly, folks, it's the easiest thing I've been able to do. And I would rather just have it be easy on me at this point.
I mean, is using Google's password manager worse than using a LastPass or a?
I have to put a Chrome passphrase to register any device that I connect to my account. Right. I have two-factor on my account. I started using the Google authorization app for more things. So I don't know.
Google's encrypting this data. It's not like it's not encrypted in the cloud and in transit. So so I don't know. Again, my security knowledge might be failing me as far as like why one would be better than the other. I still use LastPass. That's kind of the primary one that I use, and it has that kind of that main password for the account, and then all the other passwords are hidden in it. So when I think of Passkey, even though it's not the same thing, it kind of reminds me of that. And if that's the case, then it really doesn't sound any more complicated than what I'm doing already. So why the heck not?
Right. Exactly. Why the heck not?
And Lord knows the more password requirements on sites not only become ridiculous, uppercase, lowercase, number, special character, don't use the same 6 passwords you've used, like all the stuff like that, the more complicated it becomes to manage passwords, even with LastPass. And I find myself using LastPass and doing the random, give me 12 characters, random kind of thing. But like, God forbid I'm in a situation where I can't get into LastPass, then I'm screwed, right? And so if there's a more frictionless way to manage identity management access, and if Passkey is the way to do it, I'm on board. So
yeah, agreed. All right, Flo. Here's where we just kind of went with it. We scrambled and we threw your link in there because I saw it and I was like, oh, I bet Flo can talk about this because she wrote about it today.
We did.
Congrats on your front page tech meme placement.
Bravo.
I actually wrote about it yesterday.
Oh, see? We're just all slow. We're slow to the jump here.
Well, no. Today is when the news officially released, and it is good news.
I see. Okay. Gotcha.
Yes, it's very good news for Chrome users on Android tablets, and not just Android tablets, but Android foldables as well, of which I now include myself in that team of Android users who use foldables, and it's very nice. And these features are nice too. They are they're generally just like some interface improvements. So there's a new visual tab grid that's coming to Chrome for Android tablets. And this is kind of going to work like how the tab groups work now, which is that you can kind of like have a top-down look at all the different tabs that are open. It'll give you like a little thumbnail so you can see the website instead of having to squint and read. I'm even doing it now on my Windows desktop, but just squint to read whatever the URL is at the top. Sometimes it's much harder to do on a smaller tablet or even smartphone screen. Let's see. The other couple new bits include a side-by-side interface. So this is a little different than like a split screen mode. What this does is this lets you open two tabs side-by-side within the Chrome app. So this just makes it a little easier. Like, let's say you're copying and pasting from one side to another. I am looking forward to this because sometimes I publish Material Podcast using a mobile device, and going to the multitasking menu on Android and trying to do that is a lesson in patience.
Yeah, it's one of those, yes, I do that sometimes with my tasks with Twit, namely like if I'm checking ads on one side and reading what the ads were on the other side. And then I have to go into Slack and say, where in the ad, did I mess up or whatever. And yeah, so it's nice to know that we can do these kind of multitasking things on our mobile devices, but rarely is it like as easy or as enjoyable as it is just on a desktop. And I think we're moving closer and closer to that with updates like this. So that's good.
Yeah, a new gesture so that you can swipe to the left and then it'll let you go through the different tabs so that you don't have to individually tap on them to bring one to the front. There's also a feature called tab groups, and tab groups is actually available right now on the desktop Chrome. So it's just coming to Chrome on Android for tablets, Chrome for tablets on Android.
Chrome for Android on Android.
You know what? You all know what I'm trying to say.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to see how it works with the opening and closing mechanism on the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4, because apparently this has been tweaked to work with that. But what I thought was really interesting about this news is that I actually didn't get a chance to put the blog post in there, but Google did have a blog post for this. And they mentioned that all these features are also coming to the Pixel tablet. So just more breadcrumbs for us on the Pixel tablet, and, Google throwing in all these like little, look at these new bits you'll be able to do with the Pixel tablet when it's available next year. Don't forget, we're still making this tablet.
Google loves teasing ahead. It's their strategy that I think is working to a certain degree. They keep teasing about 6 to 8 months out. They're teasing. At least they feel like they have more control over the news cycle that way.
Yeah, it's hard to see this after the iPad Pro news that came out earlier today. And a reminder of like why people choose the Apple ecosystem for that kind of thing, and like what Google is going to have to compete with. And while this is great news for foldables, I just don't know. I'm just that Pixel tablet.
I'm excited about the Pixel tablet though, but here's the thing: is that like you got to start somewhere, right? Like it can't be like I get like Apple and the iPad and all that sort of stuff has had its fair share of the market share and all that sort of stuff in terms of the establishment, but like. Bravo to Google for like getting some control over the news cycle and the rumor cycle and the leaks and things like that. But like, if they're going to make the tablet thing work, it's got to start somewhere. So we have to support it.
We have to support it. We must support it.
Just saying.
I'm only doing this because I am a friend and I don't want to leave you alone on this journey.
I appreciate that.
Ouch. So it does not sound like you are very optimistic, Flo. I'm curious. But we have heard, this is totally off topic of apps, but we have heard that there's a possibility that there's going to be the docking tablet, and then there would also be more of like a pro-ish upgraded Pixel tablet. So we'll hold out hope that, they kind of have both.
We shall see.
We shall see.
We shall.
Ain't that the truth? Real quick, want to talk about something that Ron, actually, I don't even think you can really talk about this much because it has to do with Marvel. New Marvel card game. Actually, if you liked Hearthstone, do you say Hearth or Hearth? Hearthstone?
I say Hearth.
I say Hearth.
Hearthstone.
Hearth. I don't know what it is. But anyways, if you like that game, then you're probably going to like this game. I actually played it earlier today and really enjoyed it. For like a card dealing game, it like got me like my heart rate kind of racing. It was like, which way am I going to go? So what is it? It's a card game by some of the developers who actually created Hearthstone, whatever you want to call it. Each player creates a deck of 12 cards with heroes, villains, so they have their deck filled with these cards. They can play them at different locations. There's like 3 different locations, and you're trying to kind of score the most points in each different location. If you are able to get 2 out of the 3, then you win the round and you kind of move on. And, of course, it's a card trading game, or not trading game, but a card game. So you end up getting upgrades, and different cards have different powers and capabilities and everything. And there's a kind of a bluffing system, more or less, as far as how the gameplay is handled. So you can kind of raise the stakes. That part kind of feels a little bit like, I don't know, it's kind of like poker. You're sitting at the table and you want the other player to feel like you're doing something when you're doing something completely different. So anyways, it's called Marvel Snap, and yeah, you should check it out. I played it. I actually enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, it just came out today. So launched today, and what's neat here, you see, and I, yes, I work for Marvel by day, and I actually worked on some of the stuff with this, but it's neat that not only like is all the card mechanics there and all like the stuff from the people who made Hearthstone, but like they're using a lot of like artwork from the comics and from other parts of it. There's like 8-bit versions of the characters and like pixel art versions and specific other artists and stuff in there. So it's really, really cool. Yeah, I don't know. You guys check it out. It's fun. We've all been playing it at work for a few months now in the beta, but it's glad to see it finally come out. So
nice. And was I actually playing against a live player? Like when I got through all of the, okay, that's what I thought, but I couldn't tell if it was just really clever at how it handled it.
Yeah, no, I believe so. At least,
I think I was. Yeah. You go through the kind of the onboarding rounds and everything, and then suddenly you're put into a real round, and things kind of slowed down a little bit because I was playing with somebody else who was actually kind of thinking about what they wanted to do. I ended up winning the round, by the way. So I like to say I'm a professional at this point. So it was called Marvel Snap. Everybody should check it out. That's coming from me, I'm saying. So, all right. And then finally, Flo, saw a lot of people talking about this. I don't really know how big of a deal it is. I'm curious to know what you think about it.
I do think this is a big deal, but I haven't had time to like fully dive in. I just know that Signal announced this week that it's going to phase out SMS and MMS from its Android app. And so what this means is if you were using Signal to actually be the router for your MMS and SMS correspondence to your carrier, that's not going to work anymore. And the reason is because they're saying that in order to improve security and privacy, they're going to have to get rid of this functionality. SMS support was there previously due to the Apps Foundation. It used to be called the App Text Secure before it was the app we know now as Signal. And it's also worth mentioning that the intermingling of encrypted and non-encrypted communication, it can be pretty risky. And for an app like Signal that's really trying to market itself as like, this is the secure thing, this is the thing we want people to use, like, on the political front lines, you can't have any sort of backdoor to that, because then that would hurt your marketing. This SMS support is going to be leaving in the next couple of months, so you have some time to export and find a new app. But it's bummed some people out. I've seen complaints on Twitter and elsewhere about it.
Cousin Jean is in the IRC saying, I don't like this from Signal. Do they just not want to implement RCS?
Yes.
Good question. Yeah,
probably
part of that.
Like
that's probably why.
Is RCS hard to implement? Like harder than, I guess.
I don't
probably is.
think
probably
so.
harder
I
than
just think it's a
SMS.
different.
I don't know.
I mean, it's a different infrastructure in some cases. And, you know, if they want to continue being like the privacy-minded app, they have to keep it encrypted. And I don't know if RCS, I know it's supposed to be somewhat encrypted, but...
Yeah, it had kind of started as unencrypted, and then there was the news quite a while ago that it would be encrypted, but it's still kind of confusing. It's kind of like the way it started. I still am second guessing it. I mean, I think from the perspective of Signal wanting to be, perceived as a ultra secure app for communications, from that end, I think it kind of makes sense, right? Like SMS is not secure as far as that's concerned. And if you're a user and you're using an app for security and it's also intermixed with, communication that is over here encrypted, but it is not over here, like I could imagine that at a certain point it's easy to kind of not know. I guess the responsibility of the app to make it obvious that the communication you're sending at that moment is protected or encrypted or whatever. But this is also a feature that, from my understanding, doesn't exist on the iPhone, on the iOS version. This is really specific to Android. So maybe that's a part of it too. Maybe they're streamlining and kind of bringing their products up to a common language.
Yeah. JJ in the chat reminds us that RCS actually touches Google's servers. Remember, that's how we got it rolled out a lot more quickly to get the carriers and everybody else on board. So that might also be another reason why Signal is just kind of noping out of that, because Google is not exactly the known entity of privacy, especially in the European Union.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. That's a great point. Also, JJ, good to see you. It's been a while. All right. Ron, you've got the honors.
Yeah, so we always love to check in with our friend JR Raphael with some great tips. And this week, 'tis the season. JR's got some Pixel 7 tips that maybe, Flo, you could learn something. So let's see what JR's got.
Hey, hope everyone's enjoying the post-Pixel launch haze. A crazy couple weeks, hasn't it? Well, I'm among the lucky few who have had my hands on both the new Pixel phones and the new Pixel Watch for a little while now. I know. Hate me as you will. But today I wanted to pass along a couple cool tricks I found while using the Pixel 7's camera over these past several days. And these aren't the obvious headline-making features you've been hearing about, seeing in all of Google's marketing materials and all that stuff. They're just neat little touches, little things that are super easy to overlook, but really, really handy to have once you find them. All right, so first, on older Pixel phones, everything up through the Pixel 4a, you could quickly zoom into any shot on the regular camera mode by double tapping your finger on the viewfinder. Remember that? Then for some reason, I don't know why, Google took that capability away, and on more recent phones, all the way up through the Pixel 6, the camera wouldn't do anything at all when you double tapped, outside of making you look like a little bit of a doofus. Anyway, so check this out. On the Pixel 7 and Pixel 7 Pro, the double tap is back. You can once again double tap anywhere on the viewfinder to zoom in to the 2x level, and then double tap again to zoom back out. And that's in addition to being able to slide your finger along that zoom level bar right beneath the viewfinder for even more intricate control. Now, here's the really interesting part. The Pixel 7 didn't just get that double tap to zoom shortcut back, it also got an option to let you control that gesture and change exactly what it does. So open up the Pixel 7 or 7 Pro's camera again and head into the settings, which, another little shortcut bonus here, by the way, you can actually do that by swiping down anywhere on the viewfinder area to open that quick settings panel. And then from there, you can tap the more settings button that comes up. That part will work on any Pixel phone, by the way. Now, see the line that says gestures? Tap that, then tap the newly added double tap action option that's inside of it. And hey, how about that? Snuck into the mix, there's a nice new way to have your double tap action zoom, switch between your rear and front camera, or do absolutely nothing if you'd rather. Totally up to you. So there you have it, a couple cool little tricks to keep in mind when you're using the excellent camera on that new Pixel 7 phone of yours. I'll have a couple more Pixel 7 specific camera tricks to share with you next week, so stay tuned for that. And in the meantime, if you've got a Pixel, any old Pixel, you got to come check out my free Pixel Academy e-course. It's a 7-day email adventure that'll teach you all sorts of little known time savers for your phone, starting with 2 lessons about these very sorts of hidden camera and image-related tricks, in fact. Completely awesome, completely free. Just head over to androidintel.net/twit and look for the Pixel Academy button at the bottom of the screen to get started. That site again is androidintel.net/twit. I'll see you there, and I'll see you right back here next week.
Thank you, JR.
And look at that, Flo. Flo, did you learn something?
Yeah.
I did. Now, I did know about that double tap, but I didn't realize that I could go change it, which is good because Snapchat almost tricked me today so that I would set it as the default for that shortcut.
Ooh. Wait a minute. Oh, so that's possible too?
I don't know. It said something when I logged in. It was like, would you like to change this to a Snapchat default? And I was like, no.
Oh, wait a minute. That reminds me of it was with the 6 and the 6 or the 6 Pro where you could assign the tap on the back to be the snap camera.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Like that. Remember that? Yeah. I wonder if that's kind of the same thing going on there. Cool. I can't wait to kind of dig in and give that camera a whirl. There's always a fantastic camera on those Pixel devices. Cool. Thank you, JR, for sending in those tips, and we'll look forward to some expanded camera tips next week. All right, we've got your feedback coming up in a second. AAA at twit.tv, 347-SHOW-AAA, if you want to leave us a voicemail. We got this email from Jeremy, who says, why do companies think they need to reinvent the wheel? Watch bands and cases have done what they are supposed to do for a very long time. And for those that like to swap bands, quick release pins are wonderful for that. And I have to second Tashaka in the Barton watch band recommendation. I have many bands from them, as well as the Apple Watch lug adapters. If I was going to order a Pixel Watch, which I'm not, I wouldn't even consider it until after Barton released adapters for it. Keep up the great show. Thanks for writing in, Jeremy. Yeah, I wasn't on the show last week, so I'm actually not familiar with the Barton watch band, but I will share in the kind of immediate reaction that I had to the Pixel Watch, knowing that they had, and we kind of already talked about it earlier, but knowing that they had a non-standard watch band system. I was like, really? You got to go there? Why is that necessary? But I don't know. I mean, maybe it's good enough. Like I think you actually kind of brought up a really good point, Flo, which is that Apple was able to do this, and they've got a very successful and thriving band ecosystem. So maybe we get there with the Pixel Watch. I don't know. I'm not. I guess
Jason, you just went on an emotional journey that we all just watched.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I know. I'm just letting you.
I think I'm just realizing, like, I don't have a whole lot of faith in Google doing what Apple did as far as the bands are concerned.
I'm stopping at you don't have a lot of faith in Google in regards to what Apple did, period. Like that, I feel like we're coming off of the tablet criticism just a little while ago. Like I feel like Jason,
am I being critical? Is this what happens when I take a couple of weeks off the show? I like something happens to my Google.
I don't know. It's that headset that's getting to you, I think. So
yeah, it's squishing
all the HyperX.
Yeah, that's all right, exactly what it is.
Our next email is from one of the Android faithful, John, who writes in and says, on last week's show, episode 599, you featured an email from Muggins asking if you knew of a step tracker that integrates with Google Fit. The answer was no, and you suggested him to just buy a cheap Fitbit device. Although you can't export data from Fitbit to Google Fit directly, back in the ye old Arena days, you featured an app called Fit to Fit, which allows you to export that data. I haven't used it in a couple of years since I ultimately just gave up on Google Fit and stuck with Fitbit, but from memory, the app ran in the background and kept your steps and workouts synced between Fitbit and Google Fit. So if Muggins dearly wants to stay in the Google Fit ecosystem, he should buy a cheap Fitbit, install the Fitbit software plus Fit to Fit, and then just ignore the Fitbit software and see his stats in Google Fit. Fit. There you go, Muggins. Hope you're listening to John's advice. Check out Fit to Fit in the Google Play Store. See if that app still does what you need it to do. So.
Fit to Fit.
Wow.
Fit to Fit. Before we go on to the last email, and I feel it's important to note this. This is the 600th episode.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It is?
Because John said in last week's episode 599, and I looked at it, and there it is. If you're video watchers in the lower thirds, this episode 600. We completely proceeded to ignore that fact at the top of the show that here we are with a milestone of the 600th episode.
I would like to say I was going to include it in the news, but you cut it out. So what can I do?
Oh, Burke was gonna write us on that path. So a little behind the scenes, we changed how we start the show.
Yes.
When we do this live, and it used to be that we had things like that, that we would record, things that would mention that earlier, but we don't do that anymore. And so, yeah, it's totally changed. This one little change has totally impacted certain things behind the scenes.
So I feel like we should have celebrated 600 earlier in the episode, but so there you go. Yeah. If you listen all the way through the episode to the feedback, now you find us realize that this is our 600th episode, and I'm so glad that Flo and Jason are back for it, that we're all together for 600, and here's to 600 more.
Ron loves his nice round numbers when it comes to the show.
I do love the milestone episodes. I love the milestone episodes. I feel like we blew this one. We should have done more, but it's been a crazy time. That's right. Maybe we'll celebrate 610. So
yeah, or 700. 700's a big deal.
Or 666.
Oh, well, like yeah. That'll be an interesting one in a little more than a year. All right, Flo, you have the honors.
Oh, I have the honors. I love that I get this honor, and I really, really appreciate it. Burke, get ready. Get ready, because I'm about to read the email of the week. That's right. All right, so this week's email comes in from Daniel. And Daniel, I believe your last name is pronounced Chaves. Daniel Chaves. And this is a good email. Jesus.
I mean, it might not. I'm just saying. I'm just saying it or that. I don't know, but
the entire state of California is rolling its eyes at me right now. You call yourself a Californian. I am so sorry, Daniel, for butchering your last name.
It's not.
It is very clear that I've had a long day.
I'm just saying it could be either. I'm not saying it is or it isn't.
Okay.
Stop talking to me. Stop listening to me, because I've got these headphones on and they're clearly squishing my brain and I'm messing up this show. So continue.
All right, here we go. On this episode 600, Daniel writes, my question for the crew, who seem to always hold full feature smartwatches higher in regard over fitness watches. What smartwatch features do you need that a fitness watch doesn't offer? The Sense 2 has tap to pay, notifications, message read and response, and soon Google Maps. What more would you use a watch for on a day-to-day? The reason I ask is anytime I see someone with a smartwatch, they have their smartphone with them, so it's not like they are going about their day relying solely on the watch. So with that small edge case aside, what is your real needs from a smartwatch? What functions do you need it to do that you can't do on the phone that is always with you or near you that you would definitely use day-to-day? Secondary question. Why can't they just make a smartwatch last as long as a Fitbit? What makes Apple Wear, iOS, and Google Android Wear OS so much more power hungry than Fitbit OS? Daniel. Last name that I will not butcher.
Daniel C.
Okay. Yes. So let's answer this backwards. First, the secondary question, which is why can't they make a smartwatch last as long as a Fitbit? And that is screen size and processor. The processor, excuse me, that the Apple and Android Wear watches use they're teeny tiny little smartphone processors that were cut teeny tinily to put into this teeny tiny little watch face situation, and this is supposed to power up the entire app-based OS. And Fitbit just doesn't require that. I mean, it has a chip in it as well, but it just doesn't require the operating system that it runs. Is just not as intensive as what's happening with Wear OS and Watch OS. I was trying to remember the name of Apple's. Second, the second question is, what smartwatch features do you need that a fitness watch doesn't offer? I would like Ron and Jason to answer this as well, but first, I would like to say that for me, I do use a lot of apps on the smartwatch, and Google Maps is definitely one of those things. But it's more just the interface, like the ability to kind of tap around and go to an app store and download something that I need. Although Wear OS I'm finding is kind of lacking in that lately. What about you, Jason and Ron?
Hard for me. I'll just go first. Hard for me to answer because I'm kind of at a point to where I don't know that I'm really relying or on a smartwatch in any way, shape, or form. I'm curious to see if that changes with the Pixel Watch, but man, at this point, I keep getting the watches and I keep like wearing them for a while and then not really. So apparently there's something that's like what smartwatches aren't enough, like aren't filling a need that I have. So it's really hard for me to answer this because I'm kind of like, well, I don't know which feature needs to be there versus the other. I'm more curious to know, like, from people who rely on smartwatches, you know, where does that Venn diagram overlap of people who are fitness watch wearers, people who rely on smartwatches, and like, what is that thing? Like, I almost feel like this is a really great question to open up to people who watch and listen to send us feedback, because I don't feel like I'm the right person to answer this because my use case is so narrow and so thin these days when it comes to wearables. But Ron, you're now buying a watch after having not had one for a long time. Is there something that you're looking for that you can't find in a fitness wearable? Because I think the point is valid. Like, they're very similar. So what is the difference?
I would like to be able to take pictures on my phone with my watch. That I can now do on the Pixel, because that was one of the things in the demo. Is that, no, I'm joking, but you can do that. Okay. But I haven't. Sorry, that fell flat. I haven't, like, because I haven't had a watch in so long, I don't even know what is there for me. For me, the biggest attraction is, especially going for the LTE model, and given how I go running and run outside, and like putting the bulky Pixel 6, and if I got a 7 Pro or 6 Pro in my pocket and running is always like, it's a lot to, if you put in your pants pocket, the phone has got a lot of weight in a pair of running shorts. And the idea of just going out with just a watch and being able to listen to a podcast, listen to music, still get text messages, still get phone calls, and be able to do all that stuff while I'm away from my phone is very enticing. But that's all core functionality to what the watch can do. So I don't even know what's there for me. But right now it's mainly, for outdoor fitness, running, leave the phone at home. So.
And fitness watches don't have the leave the phone at home thing, I guess, because they're just...
Well, they do. I mean, fitness watches, you just leave the phone at home, right? Do they still work without the phone?
Oh, well, yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah. Right. But on fitness watches, you can load music onto some of them, right? Like the fitness watches, I would hope so.
Yes.
Yeah. You can do that.
Yes. But the other big thing that is, like, you can actually get emergency service help on a watch that you could not get on a fitness watch.
Right.
So
and that is additional connective services, right?
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's why I have an LTE Galaxy Watch 4, because I wanted emergency services on me all the time, because I constantly live in fear, apparently. So that's why I pay $5 a month for it. But I find it to be worth it. So
okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah,
that's a good answer. Although my follow-up question to that would be, why can't that? What prevents that from being a feature in a fitness watch? You know what I mean?
Cellular connectivity.
And there are no fitness watches that have the cellular connectivity. I mean, maybe there are. I don't know. I guess that's a question that I don't know the answer to. But I guess with a cellular modem inside of a fitness watch, then the battery becomes a lot less performant.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep. So then it's not really a fitness watch. It's a smartwatch. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It is an interesting question. That's why I included it here, because I think those lines are drawn. Yes, but it's still very murky to understand why one versus the other, and especially as we get into this realm of smartwatches having all of the fitness capabilities. whether you sit on one side or the other side of the fence, you really have to ask yourself why that versus this, why this versus that. And I know I'm not the right person to answer that because I'm still trying to figure out how I fit a wearable into my life on a regular basis. It's been hard for me to pick up that habit ever since COVID because I didn't wear a wearable for so long. Now I'm like, I don't need that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the idea of leaving the house, and like, I'm hoping that this motivates me to leave the house a little more often to like be able to get messages or stay connected and that sort of thing. But we'll see. I'll report back. I'll be honest too in terms of what the use case is. So
yeah, cool.
Yeah, I would love to hear like Ron's assessment, especially because I know Ron, you want to like track your runs and stuff. Daniel, I hope we answered your questions. I do think that was a very thought-provoking question, and it actually got me thinking, like, why am I using this $300 smartwatch? Yeah. So there we go. That's why, Daniel, you were email of the week. Thank you.
There we go. Daniel C., congratulations. And we have reached the end of this episode of All About Android. And what a pixely episode it was as we looked through the garden of pixels and planted many seeds for the future year to come on All About Android. Flo, thank you for the title. Thank you for being on tonight. Tell people what you're working on and what you want them to know.
Well, I am working over at Gizmodo, and if you want to see what I'm working on, you can go to flowrights.tech. That is my vanity URL that takes you straight to my byline over at gizmodo.com. And if you want to hear me in your ears every week, I do a podcast with Andy and Notco on the Relay FM network called Material, where we talk all about Google, and we talk about pixels and everything else. So definitely go check that out.
Do it.
Thanks, Burke.
Burke approves. Gizmodo, search for Flo. All right. Thank you, Flo. And then, Ron, what about you?
Yeah, you can go over and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at RonXO, and go check out Scorebit in the Google Play Store. You download that and keep track of your pinball scores, play pinball, have fun with friends playing pinball. Check it all out at scorebit.io. And that's about it. And I'm just so glad to be here for 600 episodes, Jason. What a ride.
What a ride, indeed. 600 of anything.
We should be proud. We should be proud. Remember that the only other podcasts with this many episodes are, Try Guys. Look what happened to them.
I mean, I will say I'm very fortunate because the podcast that I came up with, iFanboy, check it over at ifanboy.com. They're still going strong at episode 800. They just celebrated 850. And I think I left around 600 or so when 5 years ago.
Wow.
But yeah, just like immensely, like the two ride or die podcasts I chose for my life have been lasted more than a decade each.
They got lasting power.
Yeah,
awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you know how to pick them.
We done good, Jason. We done good.
We done good.
We done good. Even right. Burke, we done good. But even more so, Anthony and Victor keeping us going. So we appreciate it. So
yes, thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Victor. Although Victor's not doing the behind the scenes stuff this week, Anthony is. So thank you, Anthony, for editing this week. Thank you, Burke, for pushing buttons and thinking about mentioning episode 600 in the news bumper that didn't happen. Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I was totally wasn't gonna. So. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I forgive you.
I couldn't.
We didn't go there. Sometimes the show goes in crazy places and you follow it along expertly. So thank you for doing what you do. Thank you to JR for his awesome tips, Android Intelligence. Go check him out there. You can find me on Twitter at Jason Howell. I'm doing Tech News Weekly solo this Thursday, so Micah is going to be out. So I am pounding the pavement, searching for interviews, valuable interviews for Tech News Weekly on Thursday. So you can expect a few more interviews than our normal episode when I do that. Don't forget, Club Twit has become really important to us because apparently, with the economy the way things are, apparently ads are, I don't know, they're just a little bit more challenging in this environment. And so Club Twit is kind of our way around that. So if you haven't checked it out, you really should. Twit.tv/ClubTwit. It's an ad-free subscription tier. You get all of our shows with no ads. You also get exclusive content, Twit Plus podcast feed with tons of extra content included, and a members-only Discord. $7 per month or you can pay for a full year. That's $84 for the entire year. They also have corporate memberships. If you want that, we actually just signed up a corporate membership. And so that's nice when that happens as well. But yeah, think about it. It's a good way to support everything that we do here at Twit. That is it for this week. We do the show every Tuesday evening, so expect it to publish late in the evening, early in the morning, the following day, depending on the time zone that you live in. You can subscribe by going to twit.tv/AAA. And really, that's all you need to know. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll see you next week on episode 600. I almost got, way ahead of myself. 601. 701's coming in a couple of years, so check back then too. But we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am Ant Pruitt, and I am the host of Hands On Photography here on Twit TV. I know you got yourself a fancy smartphone, you got yourself a fancy camera, but your pictures are still lacking. Can't quite figure out what the heck shutter speed means? Watch my show. I got you covered. Want to know more about just the ISO and exposure triangle in general? Yeah, I got you covered. Or if you got all of that down, you want to get into lighting, making things look better by changing the lights around you. I got you covered on that too. So check us out each and every Thursday here on the network. Go to twit.tv/hop and subscribe today.